Hi, PerspectiveWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Friday, February 28th. Another cold and windy day here in the Mid-Atlantic region. There'll be a reinforcing shot of cold air that arrives in the overnight hours, and that'll keep it quite cold around the Mid-Atlantic region, the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor region, pretty much right through the upcoming weekend. It will be a little bit warmer on Sunday as compared with Saturday, but still generally below normal temperatures for the end of February, the first part of the month of March. But then we have a warm-up coming early next week into the eastern U.S. That warm-up will begin first in the Tennessee Valley, the Ohio Valley, and then it'll expand into the northeastern part of the nation. Certainly milder conditions on Monday, and by the time Tuesday and Wednesday roll around, 60 degrees for highs will be quite likely in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. I do believe there's a chance of a major rain event next week in the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, extending from the Mississippi Valley to the Tennessee Valley into the Ohio Valley, and maybe even some heavy showers and perhaps some thunderstorms into the eastern U.S. come Wednesday night time frame, setting up for the potential of a major rain event for parts of the eastern half of the nation by the middle of next week. I thought we'd start off here by taking a look at a forecast map for later this summer. Yesterday I posted an article about the prospects for La Nina conditions to develop later this year in the tropical part of the Pacific Ocean. That posting is on our home page right now, or the climate info page on the PerspectiveWeather.com website. NOAA's climate model, called the CFS, Climate Forecast System Model, is right now predicting pretty strong La Nina to develop in the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean by the mid to late summer. If indeed that does form, that could have some important ramifications, first of which can be an impact on the upcoming tropical season in the Atlantic Basin. Let's take a look at the forecast map. Again, this is a long-range forecast. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Computer forecast models certainly are not showing some great results over the past couple of years in terms of long-range forecasts for sea surface temperature anomalies. But nonetheless, this is what the NOAA CFS model is showing for August, September, October time frame. And just look at this development right out into the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean. This line right here represents the equator all the way across the world here. The equator right here, and this is right in the heart of the Pacific Ocean, the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean, below normal sea surface temperatures, depicted right now by NOAA's model. There are some other models that support this idea, perhaps not quite as strong as what the CFS model is projecting now. Again, this is kind of a rolling 3-month average of sea surface temperature anomalies, and this happens to be for the August, September, October time frame. If indeed a strong La Nina were to develop in the Pacific Ocean, that actually can lead to a more active tropical season in the Atlantic Basin. Whenever we have an El Nino out in the Pacific Ocean, an El Nino is warmer than normal sea surface temperatures, La Nina colder than normal. El Nino tropical seasons tend to have increased vertical wind shear in the tropical part of the Atlantic Ocean, and vertical wind shear tends to inhibit the formation or the intensification of tropical systems. So on the contrary, if you have La Nina conditions are colder than normal in the tropical Pacific, you can actually have lower wind shear in the tropical season in the Atlantic Basin and a more active tropical season. So we'll certainly monitor this over the weeks and months to come. The last tropical season that featured strong La Nina conditions during the tropical season was the summer of 2010, and indeed that was a very active tropical season. So this is something we'll monitor. Right now there's kind of a weak El Nino in the equatorial part of the Pacific Ocean, but again, some models support the idea of a transition to La Nina, and in this case a relatively strong La Nina, by the middle or latter part of the summer season. Well, let's now take a look at the short and medium range forecast for the U.S. And again, I think there's a possibility of a major rain event next week, somewhere in the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. This is a 7-day total precipitation forecast map put out by NOAA, and I really tend to agree with the sentiment here of a potential major rain event right in this region right here. This is the possibility of several inches of rain. Again, we're talking Tuesday, Wednesday time frame, first in the lower Mississippi Valley, then it extends right into the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley, and even along the eastern seaboard, right in this region right here, somewhere maybe late Wednesday night of next week. There very well could be some heavy showers, maybe even some strong thunderstorms as much of this pushes to the east, including a cold front. But again, watch out for the possibility of a major rain event next week in the eastern half of the nation. Well, let's walk through last night's 0Z operational run of the GFS model. And again, there's a reinforcing shot of cold air coming into the mid-Atlantic region in the overnight hours, and will be windy and cold today, but again windy and cold on Saturday, perhaps even a few degrees colder than what we'll experience this afternoon in places like DC, Philadelphia, New York City. One of the ways to tell that a colder air mass is coming in on a model is by looking at the thickness value. This happens to represent the 516 thickness value here, cutting across the heart of Pennsylvania this morning as we start off the day here on Friday. These thickness values that are shown on this particular forecast model in the dashed blue lines represents the thickness of the layer from 1,000 millibars to 500 millibars, basically from the ground to the middle part of the atmosphere. The lower the thickness value generally correlates with lower temperatures, and conversely, the higher the thickness value, higher temperatures. So the thickness values here, again, as represented by these dashed blue lines, give an idea of the temperature pattern here. Watch what happens to this 516 thickness line over the next 24 hours as we move forward here. It just drops to the south and east. Not a dramatic drop, but here we are now by tomorrow morning, and that 516 thickness drops across to the DC metro region, the Delmarva Peninsula. In other words, a little bit colder air is moving in over the next 24 hours or so, at least in the lower half of the atmosphere. There are a couple of weak disturbances in this flow, and the next 24 hours could certainly see a couple of rain showers or snow showers anywhere in the DC, Philadelphia, New York City corridor. Don't expect any heavy precipitation, but there can be a snow shower pretty much at any time over the next 24 hours or so in the I-95 corridor, especially likely in the higher elevations to the north and west of I-95, let's say central and northern Pennsylvania. West Virginia could get accumulating snow out of this pattern with, again, multiple weak disturbances flowing through the air, the atmosphere from northwest to southeast. So let's keep moving forward. The warming trend tends to get underway on Sunday afternoon. Here we are, Sunday morning forecast map. High pressure sitting on top of the region. It'll be a few degrees warmer on Sunday afternoon as compared with Saturday afternoon. Still generally below normal for the beginning of March. But then the real warm-up gets underway on Monday in the eastern U.S. But notice here, the Sunday morning forecast map, just look at this isobar pattern here. On the backside of this high, you have a broad southwesterly flow of air pumping in milder air into the Mississippi Valley on Sunday. That translates into the eastern U.S. on Monday, and we get significantly milder here in the east by Tuesday and Wednesday. Now, with that warm-up early next week, we have an increasing chance of showers here in the eastern U.S. Not necessarily heavy rain late Monday night, or even on Tuesday, but heavy rain is a possibility in the eastern U.S. by the middle of next week, and certainly across the Tennessee Valley and Ohio Valley, Mississippi Valley by the middle of next week as well. Let's keep moving forward here. Milder air pumping in. Now here's the beginning here next Tuesday of what, again, I believe could be a significant rain event for a large part of the eastern half of the nation, focused in on or centered in on the Tennessee Valley region. Kentucky, Tennessee, watch out. There could be a major rain event coming your way next week. Here we are now. This is the 0Z GFS indeed starting to pick up on the potential here for some heavy rain, first in the Mississippi Valley, then the Tennessee Valley, Ohio Valley. And again, by the time we get to Wednesday, we'll be 60 plus degrees here in the eastern U.S., I-95 corridor region, D.C., Philly, New York City, and the possibility of maybe some heavy showers and thunderstorms late Wednesday night time frame as a cold front barrels through the eastern U.S. by the middle part of next week. And that, once again, will be followed by a cold air outbreak for the latter part of next week. Looks like colder than normal, maybe very windy again next Thursday and Friday here in the Mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. But watch out for the possibility of a major rain event for parts of the eastern U.S. next week, primarily in the Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. That could work its way all the way from the Mississippi River Valley to the East Coast in the first half of next week, certainly by the middle part of next week. That's it for now. For PerspectiveWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.